This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 68. My name is Paul. I produce podcasts. I'm a journeyman lineman by trade. Our first guest for 2025 joins us virtually. Special guest today is journeyman lineman Jared at Greenlee. All right, we discuss crew dynamics, and then we dive deep into his company, Journeyman Gear. All right, new year. I want to thank you guys for your support, continued support, actually. We got a big year planned out. Going to be dishing out episodes more consistently. Big goal for this year. And you're going to see an updated look from us very soon. Don't want to divulge too much, but stick around. You're going to like it. All right, once again, thank you guys. All right, let's get to our promotional partners. As always, we're going to start up with Milwaukee Tool. Since the company began in 1924, Milwaukee Tool has led the industry in developing innovative solutions that deliver increased productivity and unmatched durability for professional construction users. Head on over to MilwaukeeTool.com or on Instagram at MilwaukeeTool for the latest and greatest. All right, Dragonware. Start your new year with new gear. Dragonware has just dropped the Pro Dry Tech ANSI 107 High Vis yellow shirt in new styles this month. Joining the men's crew neck shirt are hooded styles for men and women. It's designed with comfort, durability, and safety you need. Cat 2, NFPA 70E, and UPF 50 protection. Shop them at Dragonware.com. Once again, Dragonware.com. High vis, man, that's cool. Good stuff. All right, Total Safety Supplies and Solutions. Total Safety Supplies and Solutions is your one-stop shop for all your job site tools, PPE, garments, rubber goods, testing, and more. With locations spread across the United States, you can expedite and simplify your day-to-day needs with a vast assortment of trustworthy services and solutions. Visit TotalSafety.com. We are your preferred tooling, supplies, and service experts. New year, same problems with speaking. Anyways, all right, here we go. High Voltage Industries, the biggest brand on Instagram showcasing all aspects of the high voltage industry. Let's try that again. The biggest brand on Instagram showcasing all aspects of the high voltage industry. These guys have been working for nearly 10 years on showing the world what we do and how the industry gets it done every day. Check out their Instagram page at highvoltage_industries, and they have this. And they have some of the best merch of the game at highvoltageindustries.com. Use promo code POWERELEMENT to get 10% off your order. Once again, highvoltageindustries.com. Check them out. Always updating their site. I want to highlight promotional partners, some more promotional partners. Flying Tools, Working Athlete, Gelco, Co Eyewear. Use promo code POWERELEMENT for 15% off at checkout. And Buckingham Manufacturing. Special thank you to Daniel Sanchez. Provides us with all of our music. I'll put his info on the show notes. Last but not least, I want to thank the entire State of California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. All right, get to the show. Jared Greenlee, the Power Element Podcast. Enjoy the show. You must be intentional and very clear about what greatness means to you. Otherwise, you're not only robbing yourself of the possibility of achieving your goals, but also robbing others who could benefit from your creativity, effort, service, or contribution to humanity. Capture your greatness vision, create a plan to pursue it, and commit yourself to executing on your plan. Took that from Your Brain Weighs 500 Pounds, by Derek R. Pledger. Jared, I want to ask you, how important is it to you to execute your plan in your business and your family?
It's at the top of the list, man. I make every decision throughout my day with those two things in mind, man. My family comes first, and I'm a dad and a husband And then after that, I'm a journeyman lineman that's trying to make tools that make a difference for our trade. And we tackle it one tool at a time, from an idea to a cardboard cutout to all the way through the manufacturing process to marketing. And I've learned a lot. And it's not as easy as I was hoping it would have been, but it's very important. Those things you mentioned are important to me, and I can't imagine it being any different.
Do you find those plans kind of overlapping? Maybe, learning a skill from either your business kind of overflows into your family and vice versa?
Oh man, for sure. I'm, of course, last night at midnight, I'm making notes for this. Instead of spending time with my family, I was planning for the next day. And some days I get the whole day off and I get to spend with my family. But definitely there's an overlap. And up until just a few months ago, 6 months ago, actually, I was still a full-time line crew foreman, also being a dad and a husband and trying to run Journeyman Gear. And that's too much on the plate. The plate is not big enough for all of those things.
Yeah,
and it's stick with my company and my family.
And I think you kind of think about being a provider, and like for you, maybe taking more hours or taking an extra call out, and then also running your business, Journeyman Gear. But it takes away from that family time and that quality time. So you kind of feel maybe like maybe that sometimes it's not worth it. So you, like I said, finding that balance is kind of where it's at.
Yeah, man. I've talked about this with my wife since before I had it. My little girl's 11 now, so for over a decade, I've got to be a dad. But before we even had kids, I told my wife I'm not going to miss out on my kids and my family. I was raised by what's called a serviceman here for a utility company. My dad was a lineman for about 40 years, and my whole life he was on call, and that was before cell phones. So it was always pagers and radios, and hell, I don't even have pictures with my dad till after he retired in 2013. He's just always on call, and I was on call for 20 years nearly for the same utility company here in North Arkansas, and 2020 life changed up there, and I didn't have to be on call anymore. I was still a line crew foreman, but we was on the contract union side, and it was a whole different life. I got to spend so much more time with my family, not being on call, and now it's to the point that I make job decisions based on that. My family time definitely moved up the ladder. But
when did you start prioritizing that family time more?
Man,
because it's not something you really. I'm like, you could say it, but to actually really prioritize it, it's different. I think it's different.
I know. I started passing up service trucks because that's how it worked at the utilities. It'd go by seniority. If a service truck come open, you could take it. I started passing those up, a decade ago, just to stay line crew foreman because of the call outs, and they work a whole lot more overtime. Serviceman, troubleman is what it's called out here. Always first out, and of course I was still on call for crew calls, and if the serviceman decided he was going to sleep in, then that call would roll to the crew. But I wasn't working 1,200 hours a year overtime like those guys, so I've been making conscious decisions for a long time. But you see how quick your kids grow up, man. You come home, you've been gone so long that I remember running all day. You'd go to work on a normal Tuesday, 7 a.m., and then I'll be damned, 5:15, a car hits a pole. And you know what pole it is in these little towns. I know exactly what pole it is. I don't have to even call to see what the framing is. And then you haul your ass off all day, and you still don't get to see them. And I remember I'll be honest with you, I've come home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night before, and just felt like I wasted a day of my life. Didn't get to talk to my wife a single time. My girl don't even know I exist that day. Damn dog's barking at me. Like, what am I doing with my time? But that's the price we pay as linemen, man. It comes with, it's a great career, and it's exciting. And I don't guess I've been bored many days. And some of the best friends I've made have been, definitely the best friends I've made have been, through line work. But I still make decisions based on family time. If I know how quick the last 11 years went with my little girl, I know how quick the next 11's going. And you got a short window of time, man, to be a dad. And I'm trying to take advantage of that every chance I get, probably more than what would be normal. It's like I have a phobia of missing out.
That's great. That's cool, man. And thank you for sharing the insight. We're getting this conversation going pretty good. I want to take a step back and talk about, introduce yourself, if you can take a minute, who you are, where you're from, a little bit.
Yeah, man. Jared Greenlee. I'm from North Arkansas. I grew up, spent most of my life in Arkansas, up here in North, along the Missouri borders in the mountains, pretty low populated area. I worked for a utility company for 16 years here in Arkansas as a lineman, and started out in the underground, and then moved to some heavy equipment operating, and then to a lineman and up to a line crew foreman. And I've been a line crew foreman full time for the last 10 years. In 2020, I went to the contract side on the union, and then that's reconduct crews and little different pace of work. Utility, you kind of find coffee shops and maybe get started about 10 in the morning, with your one pole for the day with a pot on it. And on contracting, of course, it's driven with units and time. But it was a cool pace change, and some of the best friends I've made have been, working on line crews. I've always made homemade tools, even though you weren't supposed to. If there was something that I was doing all the time at work and they didn't make a tool for it, for opening up vault lids, or out of the 30 or 40 tools that I've released, all of them derived from a problem that I'd been fixing with some homemade crap. And it wasn't until 2021 that I don't know if I just got old enough to be willing to take a chance or was ready for some change of scenery. But in 2021, I started Journeyman Gear out with our first tool called the corner pocket, and that's because in a bucket they don't make a bucket hook that you can put in the corner of the bucket. It always spring around the edge. So all four corners are always empty. You drive somewhere and it don't matter how much you got your crap spread out. When you get to the job, all your hooks are together, your hoists are hanging on each other. And so I'm like, man, I'm gonna make something that will stay over in that corner. Just give me a minute. And anyway, that's where we started. And since 2021, I have probably at least 150 tools, I would guess, that I have prototypes of that I'm just going to release one at a time. And I think we're up to maybe 30. We're up to 30. Maybe the big grip was 29 or 30, our most recent release. But I'm never going to end. But what happens is I run out of daylight, man. There's only 24 hours a day, and it can go quick. It's a little overwhelming sometimes to keep so many irons in the fire. But line work is definitely what I've done. I'll be 40 in a few weeks, and sometimes I still don't know what I want to do. My little girl was talking to me about jobs the other day and telling me that she's changed her mind on what she wants to do. I'm like, well, you can always do that. I'm 40, and sometimes I'm like, man, I'd like to be a pilot, or something different. But I think I'm set. I think what I'm going to do with my life has already been laid out for me, and I'm just pipe dreaming. But I have really enjoyed Journeyman Gear.
No, you're doing great, and we'll get to Journeyman Gear. I want to definitely highlight the products you're doing. There's something unique about them, but I kind of want to get back to your story. You mentioned your dad being a lineman. What's your earliest memory of your dad being a lineman?
Man, definitely 5 or 6 years old. I used to things used to be different. We're talking about 1989, 1990. I could go on calls with him all the time. He kept a service truck at the house. And he'd get a call, and obviously now I know he would filter that. Like, it'd be a single case Sunday evening squirrel call. He wouldn't take me on car wrecks, but I'd get to load up in his bucket truck, man, and he'd just throw me in the seat and roll. And I got to do that all the way through high school. I'd get to go with him, spend a lot of nights with my dad. Sometimes you'd go on one outage, and then, the calls come in. And I remember some 0-degree nights. Like, if I would have known this, I would have stayed home and talked on the phone with my girlfriend. I didn't know he was going to be hogging out. What are we doing out here? Take me to the house. But it's just that's all he knew. He was talking about things being different, and maybe it's been in the 70s, 75, 76, something when he started. He made $3.70 an hour, and the crew they was on only had a digger truck, no buckets. So they would set the poles and then use the digger to hang the pot, and they climb every pole. Didn't matter if it's single phase or 3-phase. They did it all off hooks, and that's all they knew. I cannot tell you a war story that I've ever been on a crew that didn't have a bucket truck. We at least had a pin on, even if we were going to figure it out. But things were different, man. I feel like they were still learning a lot about electricity in the 70s. Like, there's a bunch of, it's still changing, but the weird thing is I don't ever remember my dad being gone on a hurricane or on a storm. I can't remember. It's like my brain blocked that out. He was always working, but I don't remember one time seeing him leave with his bags packed. And now all I do is chase storms. I'll take storm calls, and I really enjoy that. That's like you're talking about. That's when you get to drive across the country with your buddies, and it's a humbling thing. I've got to see a whole lot of places that I didn't even know existed by just chasing storms. And we got a pending storm call now. Once you're in the community, everybody knows everybody. So if we're all my buddies are looking forward to Monday, we're going to be headed down south on an ice storm. Sounds like that's two things that gets me out of the house, and you get to go make some of that money. But it's a little different being gone when you're on storm, because you know that you're going to get to come back home, and it don't make me feel near as worried about missing out on my family as it would, having to take a call for 610s or something somewhere for a while.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So.
Back to your dad real quick. Did your dad ever talk about work, or did he kind of like to keep, since his time, he was always at work, did he kind of keep it separate? Family time was family time, or did he kind of maybe decompress maybe by talking about work?
Man, I don't remember him ever talking about work when I was a kid. I don't know if I'd have listened to him. It wasn't until I was in high school that he started talking to me about what I wanted to do, maybe. But I don't remember it. I don't remember it ever being a dinner table conversation like it is in my house. Now, I'm pretty sure my wife can wire a 3-phase transformer bank. She definitely will surprise me with some terminology that she'll have right. She'll point at something driving down the road and say something. I'm like, that was 84% correct. I'm glad I married you. That's an amazing analogy. But my dad.
Give her application apprenticeship.
Yeah, she's been listening. I've been with my wife for 20 years now. She's been listening to it for longer than she cares to hear about it. But now she has to live with a guy that's running a company, and there's tools, and there's shipping labels and file cabinets, and you know how that can get.
Sure. Yeah.
She told me last night she lost her favorite room in the house over it. Well, you'll get it one day. It's not this day. But,
oh man, this is great.
I remember when I was little, my dad, of course, he was on call, and there wasn't cell phones, and I think that company bought him a bag phone like in 1998. So for most of my life, he had a pager that would beep, or they would call the house phone. So he didn't always want to take the call, but I do remember he had a call, and I went and answered the house phone, and I put the phone down and walked over and told him. He's like, "No, son, no, hell no, I'm not home." And I was like, "Hey, my dad said he's not home." You know what I mean? And hung up on the dispatcher, but got him in trouble. But the outside of that, I don't remember it much as far as normal talk. If we was deer hunting or on the weekends, if he wasn't gone at work, I don't. We was talking about baseball or something else, I guess.
Do you think that's because he had enough about work, or he just maybe wanted to focus on that relationship, father-son relationship with you, or not bring that back to the family? I'm asking this because I struggle with it. I think this empowering to maybe, because obviously you talk to work about your with let me get this right. You talk about work to your family or your wife or your spouse because they're confident. They're there. Yep. At the end of the day, I've already lived that experience, and I kind of want to experience something new because, like you said, tomorrow I got to go back and do it again. So it's always going to be there. So I'm trying to find that balance. So I was hoping maybe he had some more insight onto that.
Man, I have to. I had a great dad. I can't take away from. He made a great living. He retired the day he turned 55. He went home. He made it a week. He turned 55, and within that week he retired. And that's been in 2013. So he won. He won there, so I can't knock his decisions for working overtime. It gave us a great life. I had the best childhood you could dream of. But I think that if you asked him now that he's nearly 70 now and having some health problems, I think he would say that he wishes that he would have took some more time and enjoyed snow days. And I got to play with my little girl in the snow this week. And for most of her life, if it was snowing, I was at work. I'm trying to make corrections there that I think my dad would agree with. But my wife gets so tired of hearing about line work because we'll be driving down the road, and I don't spend that much time with my wife. She works full time, and I'm always running around busy. So we were just riding down the road the other day, and one of my storm buddies called, and before I knew it, I've been on the phone 33 minutes. And my wife has heard about every job call in the country and four-wheeler tires, and I'm like, man, but line work was most of that conversation, and I got to do better about that because she just sits over there and she's heard enough of it, So, but my little girl, she don't have to hear a whole lot about it. She knows a little bit about my tool company and what the tool names are, and she'll help me put stickers on them or box some up. She really likes that, and she helps me count them a few times so we both make sure we're wrong on how many's in that box. And she don't remember a whole lot about me being on call. I've been out of call out now for 5 years. And you know how kids are. They forget pretty quick what you just said, much less what happened 5 years ago. But I damn sure wouldn't forget if I'd have been on call the last 5 years. I've got to spend more time with her and my wife than I ever would have, especially if I'd have took one of them service trucks. That stays on my mind. I wake up with it and go to bed with it every day. That I'm trying to make decisions to avoid that regret later.
Man, that's great. What was that decision for you to actually kind of look into being a lineman?
Man, dude, there's one of them. So I couldn't, in high school, I was always broke. I had $33 to my name usually, and I couldn't afford my truck insurance my senior year. So I was back to riding to school with my dad in his bucket truck my senior year. So he'd pull up next to all my buddies' damn Z71s, and he'd pop the air brake, kick me out. You know, and it was embarrassing as hell, but I got to spend a lot of time with my dad that I wouldn't. But I remember one conversation that stuck. I was just mowing yards, typical high schooler. I'd mow a yard and get $40, and I was rich. I didn't need anybody. I could buy my own house with that, I thought. But he was asking me one day in my senior year, because it was close to graduation. He's like, "Hon, what the hell?" We was driving home. He said, "What are you going to do with your life?" I'm like, "Man, the smallmouth are biting. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm going fishing, dude." So there's a spot that we pull over, and he pulled over and was doing some time and was talking to me in his bucket truck, And there's a bank president's house right where we pulled over here. Very nice yard. And I mowed that yard right next to it. I mowed the yard next door. And I was like, "Man, that damn yard grew up. I just mowed it last week." And he said, "Son, you see Ron Proctor's house? That's the bank president." He said, "Son, one day, I'm just going to tell you, if you put the work in and get a good system and keep your head in the game and stay out of trouble and don't get no DWIs and just don't be a jackass." He was pointing at this big white house with an awesome yard. He said, "One day you can mow a yard like that." He drove off. But I thought he was going to tell me one day I might buy a house like that, but that's not where he went with it, man. And 25 years ago, that was in 2000, I guess. But I still think about it. But I started thinking about how your decisions affect you, and I knew college wasn't for me. I knew I wanted to be outside doing what I wanted to do, and very early, my dad helped me get on with an underground contractor for that utility, and it was like $7 or $8 an hour. It wasn't like I started out making any money, but that's the key way. That's one of the decisions I made that changed the rest of my life, because pretty quick I got on full time with that utility company and built my career from there. And I wouldn't change any of that. I got to go to, they got to go to lineman school boot camp for that company, and some of the guys that I went to boot camp with all those years ago, I still talk to every other day. Some of them are going on this storm call with me to Texas this week if I go. So just lifelong friends, man. And I can't imagine. I'll drive around and think about what else I would do or what I would want to do, or there isn't much that I wish I did, because it's once you're in it, it's just part of your life. It's part of your life. I run around with a Pelican boxes of tools in the bed of my truck, waiting on calls. And I, like I said, it's been 6 months now. In July is when I quit being a full-time, on a line crew for the first time in my life. And it was a really weird deal for a Monday. That first Monday came, and I need to be digging a hole somewhere. Like, what am I doing with my time? And I needed the time to spend on my own company, because I was always behind. I'd be behind at work, and I'd come home and I'd be behind. Then, of course, you feel like you need to work in some family time. But I miss it. I'm not going to lie. We're sitting here today, and the whole week's went by, and I've took care of a lot of business with my company and scheduled a bunch of things, and I get to be here with you. But I still talk to my buddies that are on the crews. Some of them are still with the company that I'd worked for a long time. And I miss it, man. I wish I could go volunteer, even if they don't have a spot for me, a line, a foreman truck for me. I just want to go volunteer and build a line with them. I miss eating lunch with them, and the goofery that goes on a job site, and you don't know how important that is to you, but that comes with getting to be a lineman. You never know where you're going to be working that day, or you'd be in the middle of a job in North Arkansas and get a phone call that you're going to Long Island, New York on a storm call. That's awesome. That's the most exciting time. You've never seen a group of linemen so happy to get them trucks unstuck and go load up.
That's true, man. This is great. One last question about your dad, then we'll shift. Did he give you any advice going into that career?
Man, yeah. Oh, constant, man. I talk to my dad every day. I'm real close to him. I called him before we started this to let him know that I was going to be tied up because I know he's going to be calling me. Before I even got on with that underground contractor, when I was a teenager, right out of high school, he started right off the bat started talking to me about safety and shit to watch out for, and the don't touches, because I didn't know anything, and from there it went to when I knew that I got to transfer from being a heavy equipment operator to go be a lineman, I knew they was going to send me to apprentice school right off the bat. My dad's down at the house with climbing gear, teaching me how to climb, on a dead pole, and that I had in my hayfield. And it's been a million conversations that I've had with him, not just about line work, about how to handle crew situations or things you may look at different. This I'll call it old man knowledge, and that's pretty probably it's hard to replace. I remember when I started, there was I'll say 50 and 60-year-old men. Some of them are in their 60s that were our senior linemen or foremen, and you don't know how much you appreciate those old guys, even though they're weird about crap and they're different. Then they all retire in the same 2 years, and then you're the oldest guy in the room, and I still wish I had some of those guys to work with. They were just cool and collective, and they didn't miss much. I can't lie, man. I've been lucky. This simple stuff, you get in a hurry and someone's trying to pick the downriggers up on the digger truck that's still hanging on the pole. That kind of stuff. Yeah. Those old guys that throw rocks at you or whistle and solve a lot of problems before they happen. And a bunch of 30-year-olds running around in a hurry or hot rodding, whatever. Way too many close calls. But my dad was one of those older guys, so he still talks to me about life and line work, and he misses it. He told me he's been in the hospital for a while. I got to see him yesterday. He told me yesterday that he misses the camaraderie, the bullshitting with the buddies is what he misses. Yeah. Of course, he's got a long list of old buddies, the ones that are still kicking. He talks to them all the time, and they still bullshit about line work. And you want to get him excited, let a digger truck set up down the road. He's already one of the guys that's going to go talk to those hands. Let them know that they can use his gates, and just any way he can talk to them at all. And I feel him. I'm only fixing to be 40, and I already need to turn around to talk to this line crew I just passed. Never seen this company.
Oh man, this is awesome. You might think it's weird in the audience too, listening that I'm pulling on these strings, but I think there's a shift we're seeing. And obviously the grid's going to be different. The demand, the load's going to be different from here in SoCal, and we have our own challenges. But I think relying back on those old school fundamental principles and values that were passed on to us are going to keep us going and allow us to kind of shift into what this new direction of what society needs. Because it's coming, and we don't understand what it looks like, or even you and I talked about, your dad when he was working that we're still kind of learning about electricity. Electricity is still kind of new. It's still kind of we're just moving electrons. That's it. That's all we're doing. From A to B, putting electrons in and make sure they go through the wires safely. And there's kind of a science to it, but I think we're kind of shifting into what that looks like. But I really like to bring those values of what your dad passed along to you. So I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah, it's definitely changed how my trajectory has went having him. I can't imagine not having him to bounce off of. And after he retired, I'd run into something. We'd have some regulator trouble or something going on at substation that nobody on that job site could figure out. I got a guy. Let me holler at my old man. And he did. I remember, I won't get into specifics, but he solved some problems with the phone a friend option on that stuff, man. So solved some long nights. And that's stuff that they can't teach you in the classroom. That's that 40-year curriculum that stuff bounces off of.
Yeah, man. And we're shifting too out here. Our pin top insulators are like a screw on bolt on. You take a wrench on it and you tighten her down.
I've seen no tie wire. It's a clamp.
Yeah, it's a clamp. Yeah, clamp top. So, we're eventually phasing out of the tie wire tie, and part of that tie, either with sticks or gloving, there's a finesse to it. So, you kind of lose that skill, the art a little bit. So you rely on these old timers who grew up in that, doing that on a day-to-day basis, that finesse and that skill and that art. So, you're going to see a new generation of apprentices that never really dealt with tie wire, and you kind of lose that respect and what that relationship looks like with your equipment, and the dangers of electricity too. There's a lot of learning in there. So I think it's unique to have these old timers really speaking up and leading and being on crews and being interactive. And then a younger generation asking questions. Like, these guys have a wealth of knowledge. Like you said, like your dad, your phone friend, these are the perfect guys who have a lot of experience that can really articulate how to overcome this or problem solve. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. If you got an old guy, man, I'm some great advice, and I can't knock servicemen because usually they're the older guys in the crowd, because most companies are seniority based to get those trucks, and those guys have been there forever and they get them. I got to spend a lot of time with other servicemen when I was an apprentice. Luckily, the supervisors that I had would, on rain days or snow days, they'd stick the apprentices in the service truck. Man, if you can get in tight and be friends with a serviceman and he's willing to turn the radio down and actually talk to you, those trips, even the trips across town chasing squirrels, man, the stuff they'll teach you, and just let them talk. But if you can get to be friend to friend basis with the older guys in the room, whatever it takes, man, that's the gift that keeps on giving. Because even after they retire, they're still going to answer that phone call. You don't want to be one of the apprentices that everybody dreads jumping in the truck with them. These new apprentices have a whole new set of problems, like their cigarette's dead, or they can't find their phone charger. I've been amazed. I don't know what the new generation's called, but I have I've had some really cool apprentices come through my crews, and I'm still friends with a bunch of them. But they bring their own set of problems, stuff that you wouldn't expect. And
that's funny you say that. Yeah, e-cig is not charged up, or they ran out of favorite flavor.
No, man, it can't. It was some of the stuff I miss is dealing with some young guys. You don't know how time flies. One of my apprentices, he had a shotgun in his truck, his personal truck, and it had a date on it, said 2018. And this would have been in 2020 when this happened. And the date on it was 2018. I was like, what did you get that for, graduating? He's like, no, that's my 16th birthday party. That's when I turned 16. Like, well, he was 18 when I was talking to him. And sure enough, you can be 16 in 2018 and be 20. I'm like, how the hell? How am I looking at you? Like, man, I still have shirts from 2000 that my wife ain't taking in my closet. But anyway,
oh man,
well, they have a whole new outlook on life. They get a storm check and buy a $93,000 diesel Ford, and a lot of opportunity for coaching, whether it's from financial advice or not spending your whole check on XRP, or maybe put water in the cooler, not just Monster energy drinks. Our body needs water. Let's get some water next time we're there. I can't live on
heart palpitations are not good.
Dude, they're different, but a lot of opportunity for coaching with them. But I get to, man, something that's a real fulfilling deal. Something I enjoy is when you gotta be willing to talk, even if a stranger. I've helped some strangers walk up, like I said, turn around because they seen a line crew and walk up and shake hands. And the two of them that I'm referring to, they didn't know anything about line work. They didn't know who we worked for, and I was a contractor then. I spent 15 or 20 minutes with those guys, giving them a few numbers to the local halls and explained to them how it would work if they finally got on the list as a groundman or applied for the apprenticeship. These two of these guys actually come back and work for me, and now they're tight. They'll be lifelong friends, but it's cool to have guys that you helped, even if they move on or get assigned to another company with the union. The way time flies, some of these guys, including the one that turned 16 in 2018, he's topped out now. He's done, he left me in 2020 and went to another company in Tennessee to do his next step of apprenticeship. And I got a call from him thanking him, he's thanking me from the minute that I explained how the union works to dude's got his yellow ticket now, looking to come back home and work with us. And So the people you help, man, you might even wind up working for them. There's 2 guys that were on my crew as the linemen that now I've worked for as they're my GF on these storm companies. So you keep the peace with everybody and do your best to help them. It's always going to circle back, even if they're a brand new apprentice that can't find their e-cigarette. Help them out because they'll be back. They'll be back, and you'll be in a bucket working a 3-phase pole with them, and you got to depend on them.
Yeah, good point, man. And I like something you said earlier too. Is apprentices in the generation, probably even the same thought your dad had when he was teaching apprentices too. Like, these youngsters got their own set of problems or own set of mindset they're dealing with. And that's kind of why we like what we're doing here with the podcast and social media, leveraging social media is like people, and we talked about it before. I've talked about it before on the podcast, is people learn at a different pace now. We got to use new tools that capture the message and are able to pass along some of these good safety messages, training of thoughts, coaching opportunities can be delivered in a message in a platform like a podcast. So I think that's kind of cool. So I wanted to ask you, what were some of the challenges you faced as an apprentice?
Man, exposure. I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is exposure. The utility company I worked for was a big company and covered 5 states. But we started out with underground. Of course, I had already done underground, nothing but underground for a few years. The company was confident enough in my underground knowledge that they didn't send me to any underground training once that came to our apprenticeship. So we had plenty of underground to do up here where I worked. But once it got to transformer banks and regulators and reconduct, that part of my apprenticeship, I didn't get to do a whole lot of that because most of our jobs up here in North Arkansas were load up 3 poles and a pot and grab a meter and some 1/0 triplex, and we'll see you tomorrow. Let me know when y'all are done with that. No transformer banks. You can only pull so much triplex, across a shed. I got that covered. Let's move on. I want to know how we pull in new 795 over some old 1/0. I need to spread some wire, and I didn't get to do a whole lot of it. The company I think they've got a little better now at expanding and make sure apprentices get to go see the exposure. It was a union company, but it wasn't the same as the outside construction. It was an inside local, not inside wireman, like a utility local is what I'm saying. So there wasn't much help with going and getting the exposure that I wanted. Transmission work, that was a whole different company is how I was treated. The things that I was exposed to, I had really great teachers. I can't say anything. I don't have any war stories about, you hear about apprentices getting treated pretty bad or hazed or neglected. I had it great, man. My senior linemen were always my friends. And as long as I worked hard and did my job and didn't get a truck stuck in a nice yard, I was golden. And I never had any problems with that. But exposure, man, now that I've spent the last 5 years on reconduct crews, I immediately seen, 5 years ago that there was a bunch that I hadn't done. And I took a job as a line crew foreman for this company. And I told my guys right off the bat, I say, hey, man, I don't want you to get confused to think I have 15 years of pulling in 3-phase, spreading wire. If you guys see something that you think's not normal, speak up. You're not going to hurt my feelings. We're here to keep grass fires down and out of the burn unit. And I really appreciate it if I have a guy that comes to me and tells me something like that too. He's not comfortable working this pole, or watching him extra close. He's having a hard day. That's how I try to be. But there's good perks. There's pros and cons to working for utility. Like I said, everything that I knew I was going to have to do there, if I'd have spent the next 30 years there, I would have been very good at building single phase lines over the mountain and keeping lights on. But that would be my biggest struggle there. And the time flies. You spend your whole apprenticeship, can't wait to top out. Like you start counting down like at 44 months. You know what I mean? You start telling everybody when you're fixing to top out in the next presidential election. And then the day comes so fast, and then all of a sudden you have apprentices that you're over. Then everybody's expecting you to have the answer here. And as long as you are at capacity when you get there, you're good. And it takes starting working from day one. If you start getting complacent because you've worked this ladder or you've hung 55 pots, soak it up, try to learn something every time, because the day is coming so fast that you are the one teaching that to the next guy. So if you breeze through it like high school, you're not going to be the best teacher. And you can meet guys from both ends of the spectrum. I've got to meet some very sharp guys on this side of the world that I would trust with my own kid in the bucket. That's who you want to be.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. I think for me, I felt like that first year of topping out was probably the year I learned the most. And that's kind of counterintuitive to what apprentice would think. They would think that once you top out, you kind of know it all, you're ready for it. And I'm pretty confident to say when you top out, you don't know it all. I mean, you've basically accumulated the hours and the skill set to become a certified journeyman lineman. Yes, absolutely. But you're still learning. Like you said, there were still things you weren't exposed to. And even my apprenticeship, I wasn't exposed to certain things when I topped out. And that's just, you meet the qualifications, you're good to go. But you've essentially learned how to problem solve, how to be safe, and learn how to kind of do the work. But there's still a lot to learn. And I felt like once I embraced that, like, hey man, I'm still here to learn. I'm still here to ask questions. Yeah, my title's changed to journeyman lineman, but I could still have an impact. And now my responsibilities change, where I'm either responsible for the safety of an apprentice and the success of this job. I think it's pretty cool. And once my perspective changed from that, that's where I really felt like, man, this is a good trade, and I'm learning a lot, and I have a lot to offer to either that pull partner where we can get the job done safely and efficiently. So I think that's always great, man.
I would say you are a lineman on a crew. I would say
yes.
My advice is the best job on any job site is a damn lineman in the bucket. Not a foreman's a headache, general foreman's a headache. Those guys. It takes those jobs. It takes that for a crew to flow. But being a damn journeyman in the air, the days go by so much faster. You get into a flow, especially if you got your good pole buddies that you can work with. You don't even have to talk. You can work a whole dead end pole and you realize no one has emitted any words, and this pole is perfect. That's we all. That's something. I think everybody has their favorite crew. Like I hope everybody's on their favorite crew. That's tough sometimes with the way things move, especially on the union side. I have my absolute favorite crew, like core memories, and those days are what keeps me going. That's like Billy Madison's happy place or Happy Gilmore's happy place. You know what I mean? Happy
place. Yeah, that's good.
Those guys, and we got a group message going, the five of us, that one day we're going to ride again. We get one of them real big bad jobs in North Arkansas that they just cannot build without us. That's when we'll come back together. We got that one covered.
That's awesome. So for your question, in full transparency, I am no longer on crews right now. I do what I do full time now. So my story was based on my experience. So that's just full transparency. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you think linemen should still have professional goals? You talked about, the best, and it's often said too, the best job in the industry is being a journeyman lineman. Like you said, just doing it. And it's good. It's a good job.
Yep. That is,
but do you think
for money to stress, that's where the line is. But it takes a company is going to have executives. They're going to have all the way to foreman. You want the best guys in those positions. You want the safety guy to be the guy that knows what he's looking at. You don't want him coming from Toys R Us over to the safety department. So I'm not knocking. That has to happen. You want trainers, in-house trainers and safety guys. You want those guys to be linemen. Linemen are absolutely the safety team over a lineman company. I've had, I don't even know how many 50 safety men in my career. I don't know. And the ones that right off the bat get everybody's respect, and the ones that I feel like are the most successful are the ones that have line crew experience. So definitely don't want to say if you're on a crew, never plan on doing anything but being a journeyman. I'm just saying, looking back 2 decades at it, the easiest it was just being a lineman with a harness on. somebody point at that pole and tell me what you want done, and just watch. It's going to happen. That's the least amount of stress. But of course, I've started a company. I've added all the stress you can add to a human, and I can't say don't settle with just being a JL if you have ambitions to do something else. Don't take what I say to heart there. But
I always said too, like you can always go back. You can take if you need to fill in as a foreman, we'll fill in for a couple of weeks, or see what that looks like. And then you go back to being your tools and put that harness on, put your body belt on, and climb up. But I think that key is that perspective of what that role looks like, and it's going to make you maybe probably a better lineman too. Or, if you need to fill in as a GF or superintendent, maybe, and you don't feel like you're ready. Yeah, there's probably some truth to it, but at the end they kind of go back and you can take what you learn from there and apply it to what that looks like. So I think that's pretty neat opportunity to just kind of have that flexibility, the opportunity as a JL.
Yeah, you should be ambitious to be the JL that they would pick to be the next foreman. And if you're foreman, you want to be the one that they got their eyes on to be a GF. If you're not falling into those places, there may be room for improvement, or the things they look into, especially on the contract side, is always numbers. If it's hard, and if you're fighting solid rock or mud or hillsides or weather, it's tough. It's tough to stay ahead of that profit line on the contract side if you're fighting those things every day. But the journeymen are not driving home feeling stressed about it taking all day to grind a rock hole. They just was digging rock holes that day. Maybe a foreman or GF is losing their hair or turning gray over it. That's how it felt.
I think too. Do you think there's any value? Maybe you're not as a JL, maybe you're not too happy or you don't agree with the way the company's ran, and maybe you take that promotion for a little bit of time, and now you're able to provide a little more solution and give some more insight. Like, hey, I've seen it from a different perspective. What about this? Do you think there's any value to that?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. We have solved some major dilemmas in a water cooler meeting in a gravel parking lot with guys speaking up. And it's guys from all experience levels that are talking. You run into a whole bunch of JLs that the last time you seen them, they was a GF. I got some good friends that I used to work at the fire company with in my boot camp. That, like I said, they was on my crew for a few years, and then next thing I know, I work for them. They're my GF, and they were in those positions because they shine like a diamond in a bucket. They could forecast problems before they started and fix them, and that forward-looking thought process. But if you have problems on a right of way, usually conversations in the parking lot can fix it. Any kind of dilemma, and it takes guys from all backgrounds to sometimes see through the problem and fix it.
There you go. You mentioned your group chat with those 5 good buddies and having that favorite crew that you worked with.
Yep.
What about when there's friction on a crew, when you're not having maybe you and your pull partner not seeing eye to eye? What's the best way that's for you to kind of overcome that, do you think?
Oh man. Well, what we talked about before this podcast is avoiding drama. Maybe the older I get, the more I look into context clues and maybe what's going on. Cause there's been friction before, and instead of reacting to it, especially as a foreman, maybe look into maybe what else is going on. Maybe there's usually more to the story but man, staying calm and having one-on-one conversations, not a shouting match. You don't want to have a rap battle with someone that's in the air. Let's talk about it. Just get in the truck for a minute, kind of things. How you handle that, and stay humble, man. Don't have any ego. You can't have ego or pride in those conversations. And I've learned, especially if it's emotional, like if someone's real shook up or upset at something, literally taking your hard hat off and just spending a little bit of time with them, leaning on the bed of the truck over a water or a Monster energy drink, because that's all that's in the cooler. You can fix problems, and usually it'll fix it for good, instead of reacting with anger or getting to a shouting match or any of that. Because I've dealt with it that way, and that's not the answer. I'd say try to be the old guy. I talked to earlier about, those guys that were older, they were always calm and collective. Didn't matter what kind of train wreck was happening. That's who I wanted to be, and they treated me very respectful. Like I said, I never had anybody that was over me that dogged me or yelled at me. But you're gonna have those 103-degree August days where everything makes you mad. You're gonna cut your arm and got a headache and nothing's going right, and that's when tempers flare. That's the word I'm looking for. When tempers flare, you want to put the fire out. You don't want to add to it. And the kind of guys that I worked with, staying calm and respectful, and having some eye-to-eye contact, that fixes that.
I feel like it's almost being near impossible to have the day go good or the job go good or have a good product, a good quality product, or feel like everyone was safe when there's that friction between you and your pole partner, or you guys didn't see it eye to eye and you got up in the bucket or you're climbing the pole, and there's still something to be said. Like, yeah, you can get down, climb down and squash it and come to understanding, but throughout that day, like, you're really escalating or increasing the odds of something bad happening by not having the conversation, or like I said, not leaning up against the tailgate and just kind of talking it out and getting back on that same page.
Oh man, an angry lineman is a dangerous lineman. Now I've been there. I've been so mad my lips were quivering in the bucket. I'm not gonna lie to you. And your brain is not where it needs to be. Your eyes and your hands ain't doing the same thing when you're that mad. You're up there anticipating what you wish you'd have said or what you're fixing to say when you get down, instead of making sure that you're macking out the right switch.
Yeah.
So I don't have any numbers to say as far as accidents, but I can guarantee you that there's some accidents that happen in this country that one of the contributing factors was, pre-existing argument.
That friction or poor communication because of that, like that underlining thing. I think that's why it's important that cohesiveness, or that camaraderie on a crew is like, it's important. It's a tight crew. I think we can learn. There's a lot to learn from those good working crews. Like, how are you so safe? How are you so efficient? When you see they probably maybe engage with each other a little bit more, you have that bullshit kind of mentality, those after hour text message groups that have some interesting memes on it or something, and those, are you going to steak on Friday night with each other and hanging out,
Yeah. That,
some value.
The crew that I was mentioning, the guys that I still talk with, man, one of them's two of them's in California right now. One of them's in Oregon. They after I left the company 6 months ago, they didn't stay long. It's like it killed the vibe for them, I think. But that's the best I can remember. I just got to spend a few years with those guys, and man, we would work so good together. And I don't remember a bad day. And they're super sharp. Super easy to work any pole with. You didn't. If you have some guys that you have to watch, maybe some apprentices that someone needs to keep an eye on them, because there's no telling what they're liable to do here. These guys weren't that, man. We'd start working, and I remember a few days it was 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and we hadn't even stopped for lunch. Not on purpose. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, there's no way all of our watches are this wrong. I thought it was 11:15. That's how it felt. That's how you want it to be. We was hungry as hell. We quit right then for lunch, but I also remember being on crews when you're counting down to lunch, because you just need a break from this crap for a minute. And it makes the bad days make you appreciate the good ones. And I don't remember having a bad day with them guys.
Very good, man. Good stuff. Good insight. Appreciate you sharing that, opening up a little bit. And I think I'll speak for myself. You really don't get to ever really talk about this kind of stuff too. That's why it's kind of neat to kind of share that that insight. And I know a lot of people can learn from it and kind of reflect on their experiences too. So appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Last question in this, and then we'll shift to kind of what you got going on now. But how do you avoid complacency on a crew? What's that look like? Some days maybe your scope of work is just single phase tangent pole, baby. A couple weeks in a row, and you're just kind of banging them out, man. What you got for us? What are you thinking?
Man, that is hard to do. It's hard to, because you'll get in a rut, and these guys know what the next 5 or 6 poles look like. Whether we've already set up on them to spread them out, the week before, whatever. It does affect the vibe if there's rock holes, or you got to vac truck them or hand dig them, or if there's a bunch of underground on it. That's a tough one to stay ahead of. It don't matter how many Monster Energy drinks somebody's put in your cooler. It's hard to keep straight line poles interesting. Even with cows running around the field, or one of the trucks leaking oil. That's a weird deal. I'll tell you what will fix it is a midday storm call. You can see a group of guys go from just getting through the week, on a Wednesday, to they've never been happier, calling their wife, telling them they're fixing to go on a storm. And a few times I faked a storm call just to see, like phone would ring and it'd be somebody completely different. And they'd be like, "Man, what's up?" I was like, "Well, we're mobilizing, buddy. We are rolling West Virginia, country roads." And I can't do that. I had to start dodging washers and hard hats, man. Because I was like, well, now that I know how fast that boom will move, go back up there and transfer that wire. Eeyore. Yeah, but there was days that just went on forever. You're fighting mud or hillsides, and where I live, I don't know how the terrain is. I know there's mountains out there where you're working, but there was whole jobs, not days. There was whole jobs that you got to have equipment to drag trucks into every pole because it's so steep. It's not the mud. We had the ocean may be fixing to do backflips, but we had to leave dozers and excavators chained to our trucks so they wouldn't slide off the hill. And that's how we would work poles. That's a part of it. I don't know what else you do, but you drag a truck in and then spin around and you drop dozer blades and chain hoist stuff off the trees. And yeah, that adds to the excitement, when somebody's got to be in that truck with it in gear before you can take the chain hoist off the downrigger. That's fun.
Line work.
Making it happen. Yeah, you got to make it happen.
Yeah, there's always, if you getting power to people is kind of a challenge. I would say the scope and scale of line work is incredible. How we overcome terrain, weather, like I said, just trying to get the tools. Like you can only carry so many tools a distance. You can't carry the pole. Like it's got to get there. Yeah, there's helicopters and there's other things, but at some point, like you got to get the job done. So and that's kind of the fun of it and uniqueness. And those hard. I remember, like I said, getting the truck stuck in some mud. Those are the times you kind of look back and you kind of laugh about it. When the fender's just buried up to mud. And you're like, how in the heck we're gonna get this out? And yep. What do we got? We got any plywood? What do we got? Get some chains, and still laughing about it and getting the job done safely is kind of the challenge, and it's fun. So, yeah. Yep.
We would have staking engineers come and build. We build a new line. The job I'm talking about. Staking engineer, it would be so bad solid rock that you'd get to a pole stake, and there's a wooden pole stake laying on top of the ground with a pile of rocks around it that they found because they couldn't drive it in the ground. Like it's on limestone. And I'm like, I remember some pole stakes, and I'm like, dude, I know this staking engineer. He can't walk up here. He had to get the customer to walk up there and drive the stake. And anyway, this on ledges and cliffs. And I'm like, man, why would we choose this location for a pole? Let's go 100 foot either way, and then I can set it. If not, I got to have a rock quarry moved,
So the ask is, you can't put a stake in the ground because it's so hard, or so so hard. But I'm supposed to put a pole here. All right, cool.
We need a 45-foot pole here.
Yeah,
and a ground rod.
Oh man, this is great. All right, cool. Let's shift before we start getting off the edges here. Man, your company, man, Journeyman Gear, you got it behind you. I got the website pulled up. I met you at International Lineman's Rodeo. You were in a booth with Line Roots. You guys kind of had your thing go on. Man, take me back. How did Journeyman Gear start? You talked about, and I wanted to add to that, you talked about you were always that guy who always, had solutions for the bucket and always, I imagine you probably had the nice bin, the nice rigging in the bin. And I loved working with those guys because I would steal whatever, not their tools. I would steal those ideas that they had and be like, hey man, this is the way to go. So what you got for us, Jared?
Yeah, man. I started out, I made so many tools, homemade tools, and I know that's an improvised tool, it's not legal. And there came a time that the company I worked for made me take them all off the property, because the improvised tool is against the rules. Then we would just not have a tool for the job. And one example I'll use is opening up vault lids, concrete underground vaults. Everybody's got a damn bent piece of rebar or welded channel locks with a T-post. We would make tools, and they were always on my truck. Everybody knew that I had that fancy shit that I made. And some of the guys that I worked with all those years, now they find out that I invented a whole bunch of tools. A few of them even said, "You were always making shit. I knew you would do this because you always had this crap." And so the way I went about it and the way I still make decisions, I told you I had about 150 tools, that prototypes. And the way I go about it is I only move forward with the ones that fix a problem. I don't want to make another flathead screwdriver. We got plenty of those. I don't need a fancy hammer. I'll make tools that solve a problem, that serve a purpose, that the only thing out there was an improvised tool. And that's where I went about it, man. In 2021, I started with a corner pocket. That's our very first tool. Man, I got one here. This is the first tool. It sits in the corner of the bucket. Everybody that runs a bucket knows that you can't make a bucket hook stay in the corner. You get a regular, generic bucket hook and you try to put your stuff in the corner, you move it all out and make room. When you get to the next pole, that shit's all back on top of each other, chain hoister or your ratchet hoister back on each other. So the first tool I made, I wanted to make something that would stay in that corner. And man, I remember not being nervous because it takes quite a bit of investment to get into that and get a tool patent, and I designed it and built prototypes and opened a factory to make these tools and get the equipment. And I remember the connection. I think absolutely networking is the biggest part of trying to start and run a company in our industry is networking. The company I worked for, the owner of the company, the contract company, he knew one guy to send me to, and there's a guy named Doug Kirk with Tallman Equipment. Never met Doug at this point. This was on a Saturday also when I finally got the call from my patent attorney that I can release this tool. I was nervous as hell. I didn't know if everybody would hate it. I knew it worked. I've been using it for 6 months. I'd give them all my crew free tools to test, and I knew it worked great. But Doug Kirk placed the first order on a Saturday for Tallman Equipment, and all the pressure was off. That was the first win. That guy never even met me before at that time, and such a cool cat. And from there, I went to Miss Anne Marie with Line Jump. She was one of the first batters to the plate that really helped me out, and from there, I've got several real good distributors now that I work with, and some of them are my buddies, our linemen. My buddy Andrew Morris owns Line Roots down in Texas. Me and him storm together. He's going on this storm call with me next week. That's all we do is chase storms and try to run tool companies. But after the corner pocket, man, I seen some wins there, and went to the next tool. Like I said, I already had the list, and I'm like a crackhead. I've never quit making these tools, but I went to the second one and got it in production and marketed it, and got insurance and patents on it and all that stuff, and it's got easier to get this stuff out, especially after you've already made these relationships with people that are willing to take on those tools, because you can have all the tools you want in stock. If you don't have companies to help you get them out into the hands of the linemen, you just have a warehouse full of stuff,
It's funny. I want to stop you real quick. You made a good point too. That corner pocket is first thing you do when you hop in that bucket is you slide your apron back into point where you want it, nice and cozy, either center or offset, and then you're picking up the shit that fell off the ground when you were kind of getting to the job too. So the aprons are nice, and we'll get to some of your other products too. But I think you can tell there's some hours behind your products, and it's actually like journeyman kind of level thinking and problem solving here too. So I did want to ask you, what's that relationship like between a lineman and their tools?
Oh, hell, you want to piss a lineman off, go up there and move something in his bucket. You know what I mean? You can tell if the mechanic got up there to work on a jib rope and moved your screwdriver, somebody's got some explaining to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Tools. Dude, tools. some of the worst flip outs I've seen has been from somebody hitting a bump too hard, like driving a truck across railroad tracks or something. And I've done it too. I remember some of the linemen when I was an apprentice, I drove their truck and you hit a pothole too hard. I'm pulling over then and I'm fixing it. There's no way I'm letting them see this. And of course, anyway, you get sawdust in a man's bucket or move his tools, but it's also a new deal. It's a weird deal, a weird feeling to try to introduce new tools, because you got guys that are set in their ways. They got exactly what they want in their bucket, and they can find it at night with no headlamp and all the things. And you run into that with like, hey man, I got a new way to do this. Whether I'm talking to them or they're seeing it on the website or online, to try to get guys to try something new is a little different. To try to get companies, because not every situation, a JO, especially on the utility side of the world, the companies buy the tools. The JOs, none of the tools that I had in my bucket truck when I worked for utility, I don't think I owned any of them. That was for the company to spend their money on. I'm not buying this crap, So getting into utility companies has been key. It's called a coded, getting your tool tested by their tool team and coded and approved. And I've had some what I consider wins, and I'm not even talking about financially. I'm just talking about like milestone of getting the tool approved. That's when I feel like I've released a good tool, is when our approves it to use in all their states. It's I'd say lineman tools. You got the two kind of guys. You got the guy that will buy new climbing gear every 2 years just because they made one that weighs 4 ounces less and it's got new emblems on it. You got that guy that's always having the nicest shit. He looks like a Milwaukee salesman at 40 foot, Or you got the guy that's got his dad's bell wrench and 6 different colored bucket hooks in his bucket, and they better not inspect his harness because it's also from the 90s. And, the two different kinds. I don't know a middle guy that's maybe has a 1 or 2 new impacts and an old socket. It's either all new shit or hand-me-downs, and of course we'll start with hand-me-downs, but
I always like the guy who was like, you're in a 2-man bucket and you can't even fit in there because you got so many dang tools. Every drill bit's got a drill on it, and you're just like, dude, like I can't even move. I got a drill digging in my back because you got this thing lined out for solo operations. So I guess I'm gonna get my tools and I'll work this one off the wood or something.
Yeah, we gotta get a seat on the jib or something, man. I know what you mean. Yeah, I know. They spend their whole life alone, and they look at you like a stray dog showed up to a new neighborhood when you jump in that bucket with them. Like, you are in my way.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna get close here, pole partner, because I'm gonna be all up on your back because there ain't much room to turn around in here.
Yeah, we can wear the same harness in that bucket.
It's got an 800-pound capacity. Anyway, we're not advertising that. Don't do that. We're just talking shop here, folks. All right. Does having the right gear and tools allow for the crew to be safer and more efficient? What you got?
Yeah, man. So I've had some accidents. One of the tools I have is called a rock socket. I was talking about solid rock. You can't put an anchor down either. It takes a special. It's called a rock anchor. You got a jackhammer, 2-inch hole, and tighten it down. It replaced a cheater pipe. We've all used cheater pipes, different applications. Okay. The only way to install this rock anchor since history has started was with a cheater pipe. A breaker bar off of a ratchet, something. Sticking the hole.
You're going to the dentist afterwards too.
Dude, it is a catastrophe. And that's before you bust your ass on cedar stobs and rocks that you just had to dig out. Anyway, accidents, man, like I said, the tools that I'm releasing solve problems, or I don't release them. I'm not going to release another hammer because I designed a new hammer. The last bad close call I had was pulling in ropes. We had single phase spread out, and was pulling in ropes for a new 3-phase, and it crossed the highway a few times. And the tool that I'm referring to is called the rope rack. It goes in a receiver hitch of a truck, and you hook your ropes to it. And we were just jerking knots. You pull ropes to a dolly and hook to the pickup truck and go to the next span and lay your ropes up. We had one of our knots come undone. There's 4 guys or 5 guys always doing that, and everybody's grabbing a different rope, and everybody's got their own knot they want to tie on the back of that truck because we're just pulling ropes in, with the rope rig, just a little bit of brakes on it, just kind of free spooling. Well, one of those knots come undone when I was pulling from pole to pole with the truck, and it slid back to a highway crossing, and a car hit that rope. And of course, we didn't have enough men to flag traffic at every crossing, especially once our rope was already 50 foot in the air, a few road crossings ago. But anyway, that could have got a whole lot more serious. Luckily, the person hit it. They had more to hide than gain, and they left. They thought they was going to jail for other reasons, I believe. I think they was transporting or something, but luckily nobody got hurt because that rope left at 60 mile an hour. The end of that rope, and I'm thankful that it jerked out of there without having someone wadded up in it. But they're having their own tools or having under tooled. Of course, we all wing it. We all are, using a crescent wrench for a hammer. That's a normal thing, but it gets pretty serious pretty quick if you don't have the right tooling. I don't get into insulated or grounded tools, tools that have to be tested by underwriters' laboratories, but that stuff, I don't know. Fatal rules, the company I work for, they call them fatal rules, and not using some of that stuff was those rules written in blood. So yeah, tooling is absolutely part of the crew safety, and if you run around short-handed and without the right stuff, it's going to pop up on you.
Absolutely, man. And you got some great tools, and then they're all great. I'm gonna reframe that. How I'm getting there. You got some good complex tools that solve a lot of good problems that, like you said, we all shortcut it or kind of manufacture to get a vault lid off, or kind of figure out a better way to kind of get some leverage. Just kind of the stuff you're kind of dealing with out there on the right of way. But then I'm looking at this. You got this key biscuit, and I know this is so big. People, and you just look at it, it's a little biscuit. But how many times have you went to go put in that dead end shoe or the insulator, and your cotter key's gone, and you go look for it in the bag or your apron, and it's missing there, or the one in your hard hat is missing. So you call for one. You call it for one. You get distracted. You forget to put that cotter key in, and now you're potentially driving away without, the shoe's under tension, but you're potentially driving away with something not complete. You're looking at quality and just pride and craftsmanship. So having these little biscuits here, just something simple like that, like that's a story that happens probably every day on the right of way where you just misplace a cotter key. Yeah,
the key biscuit's one of them simple ones. It holds 19 cotter keys, which would be a lifetime supply. It weighs like 3 ounces. It's super light. You can't even feel it. That plastic super thin. Those are made by hand too. Those are made in house. And
because how long does it take to dig that one out in the bottom of the apron? It takes minutes, and you're holding.
You're taking your gloves off. You know what I mean? You
take your gloves off.
And that's if it's not frozen sawdust. This is January sawdust we're talking about. All of a sudden, that's got a quarter inch of snow in the bottom of it still.
Or mud, yeah.
The company I work for outlawed they wouldn't let you put the cotter key on your hat no more. And of course, everybody, if you got shoelaces, they put one on the shoe. And I've had a lot of guys tell me that about the key biscuit. Like, man, I just carry one on my shoe. And these are my friends I'm talking to. Just know that I'm not being disrespectful. I'm like, buddy, standing here in this hotel lobby, you can't bend over and get that one off your shoelace. I know you. How are you going to do it in the bucket, man? It's not there. You might as well not have it. But we all drop cotter keys. You have one in your mouth, and I've also run around looking for the one that was in my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, man, I know it's here. I know damn well it's here. I'm up there whispering to myself.
Yep. Oh man.
Key biscuit. You fill it up because you dig through. You wreck out an old pole. You keep them. That's how you fill a key biscuit up is off of an old pole, and it'll be there with you, and you'll use it, and it will be right where you know where it is, and it won't be frozen in sawdust or down in the bottom, or you're trying to dig it out with a pair of channel locks because you can see it but you can't get it kind of deal.
Oh yeah. And your buddy's waiting for you, your pull partner's waiting for you, or in your hooks, and last thing you want to do is be searching for a cotter key. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, it's embarrassing when you drop something on the ground. Like, you hope nobody heard it. Especially if it's the last one that you have.
Oh yeah, man. Look at it. Did you ever think you'd come on this podcast talk about cotter keys? This is great.
No, I didn't think the cotter keys would be a part of my life at all.
But that's what I'm talking about. This is journeyman intuition. There was a problem. It's not a big problem. It's not a huge thing. But when you talk about, quality and pride, craftsmanship, and journeyman level quality, like these are the things you want to do. The cotter key's got to be facing the right way, and it's got to be all the way inserted. Like these are little things that kind of get overlooked, and they could, completely just kind of change the trajectory of your day. Absolutely.
I'll give you one little hint of a tool that I've made. I got a prototype, but it's a cotter key extractor, because them old cotter keys that are copper, or the ones that are like sprung open. Like you don't know how the hell they got them in there, but you got to have a flathead screwdriver and a hammer, and you don't even care where it lands. It's got to go. You know what I mean? Like you are done fighting it. I made a pair of pliers that will extract that cotter key, one-handed, and it's a really amazing tool. I haven't released it yet because I'm just trying to space it out. I don't want to overwhelm, the production side of things. But that's two tools revolved around a damn cotter key. But if you're up working a hot 3-phase pole and you're moving wire up on a dead end, a cotter key can piss you off. It can run your vibe for a minute there.
And you know what? We'll stick on this for a little bit longer. Is someone's gonna be like, I'm gonna tell you, if we're in the bucket, be like, Jared, just cut that jumper, or let's cut the arm out, let's do something like that. You're like, nope, I'm gonna fight this key, I'm gonna get this sucker out. So
I'm a winner. I come from a long line of getting this cotter key outers.
Yes. Oh my goodness. All right, Jared, let's keep it going. Tony Robbins says, when you run a business, you run two businesses: the business you're currently in and the business you're going to become. What kind of goals do you have for your business, and what do you want to become here? What is Journeyman Gear going to become?
Oh man, I still just like I was joking earlier about not even knowing what I want to do with my life, but I'm 40, so I think I know what I'm doing with my life. When I started the company, it was with one tool, and you can't be scared to start small. Like everybody wants to show up to the party, like Buckingham, a multi-billion-dollar company that stuffs everywhere. You can't go to the grocery store without seeing something Buckingham somewhere. But the growth is definitely what I chase, and growth for me isn't just numbers and sales. It's connections, man. I feel like sitting here with you today. Like I said, I feel humbled by the opportunity, like unworthy. I feel like it's growth, man. I got networking connection. I've picked up several sales agents and got approved by some really big companies out in California. There's some big power companies out there that's proven the tools. Those feel like wins. And seeking approval, really, man. I've learned you got to stay out of the comments section on stuff. If you got a company that's releasing a tool, I started out with the one tool, and I wanted everybody to love it. I was like, man, I hope nobody has anything negative to say. Oh, there's some linemen out there that can't wait to get on that keyboard. And I wanted to start a rap battle. Like they didn't know they had Eminem from North Arkansas here. I got stuff to say, but I type out a whole comment, fixing to bury them, burn them down, and just delete it. Like I can't. I gotta hang up that life and remain silent. But it is two businesses, man. It's from where you start, where you want to be. Man, for me, being able to commit myself full time this year to my company is one of the milestones. Not having to try to juggle, running a crew and in my company. I don't know where I'm going to draw the line on releasing tools. Like I said, I've got more prototypes than I don't know. Knowing how long it takes to release a tool and get it in production and ready to release to the world, I don't know if I have enough years left to get all of my tools released. So at some point, I gotta outsource and reach out and try to spread my wings that way. But the path I'm on is release one tool at a time. We're up to about 30 now. I got a whole catalog. I never would have dreamed in 21 when I started with one tool. I was happy with just the corner pocket. I wasn't going to do anything else. Yeah. If I sold any of them, that was a win. I had no intention of it going the way it did. Then you get kind of ballsy to release the second one and the third. And then, like I said, we're up to about 30 now. I can see how you definitely got to have a team to go to the next step. You can't do it on your own. I'm kind of still running this company by myself. You see the Buckingham guys and the Milwaukee guys, and I got to spend some time at a tool show a few weeks ago down in Louisiana. Went to a whole bunch of different power companies. I got to meet a guy named Dustin from S-Tex. They make nearly all the glove bags and tool aprons, and big company. Man, I learned stuff I didn't even know I needed to know, getting to hang out with him for a week. And not just from being a salesman, but how to handle distributors and stock and codes. And And I didn't know what I didn't know is the best way to say it. Getting to meet those guys definitely changed my goalpost from being a better speaker or making the connections to get to go to more shows and doing stuff like today. That's what it's going to take to go to the next step. But like I said, I still don't know what the damn next step looks like. I need longer days. You know what I mean? I need more time to do things. And I definitely want to keep releasing tools. I'm very excited, just like the cotter key pliers I told you about. I got so many things that I want to release that if I don't watch it, I'll release them all in 1 month. You know, like flood everybody. Everybody don't even have enough time to read these emails about what I've just released. But Tony's right, man. It is two businesses. You got to have some ambition or it will fail.
Yeah, very good. And I want to call you out. What are you thinking here? Lifetime warranty. You know, you're selling products to linemen here that we're notorious break shit.
So far, in 4 years, thousands of tools. The only thing I've ever had to replace under that warranty was a few corner pocket braces. The corner pocket has a vertical brace right here that snaps on and off. And out of thousands of tools, man, and all the tools that I make, that's the only thing I've ever had to warranty. So the way I feel about it, for what it cost me to make my tool, I've told my distributors from day one, if they have somebody that breaks one, I don't need pictures of it, and they don't have to mail it back. Give me their address, and I'm going to ship them one with the latest hard hat stickers. You know, they're getting something extra for the hassle. Like I said, that's the only tool I've ever had break. I got a giant. This is what I really like. I got a giant bucket hook, the Highlander hook. I hung a 1,000-pound four-wheeler from one of these just for a few weeks until I needed that four-wheeler to go riding. I passed this around at tool shows, and I'm like, hey, I'll give you $100 and a free hook if you can break this hook, and you can't. You know, a bucket truck is not strong enough. The hydraulic system will bypass before you can break that hook. Like if you hung it on a phone line or a tree limb, you have to wreck your truck. You got to flip a bucket truck driving down the road to break that hook. So I'm not hesitant on the lifetime warranty part, even with linemen, because they can't wait to break stuff. But I didn't know how that would go when I started that. But I'm like, hey, I want these guys to know that don't be scared to use it and abuse it, and I'm standing behind it. And
I think that's a testament to your roots of being a journeyman lineman, second generation journeyman lineman, and yourself just being a lineman. I repeated myself there, but is building, like we talked about the cotter key, just building that quality, that good product, and you've overflowed that into your business. Like, yeah, this is a tough industry. We're tough on tools, we're tough on equipment, but I'm going to make a product that is quality built, like the work we should be doing too.
Yeah, it's I can't see how outside of you worry about stuff bringing new products like how it reacts to sunlight. Like there's so many tests that you don't consider. Dielectric tests, things like that. I think I would know by now if the plastic was going to deteriorate. Of course, I don't make the plastic. I buy the plastic material from a plastic company, and then I make the tools in house. But anyway, no, the lifetime warranty don't spook me anymore. It did at first. I didn't want a whole bunch of stuff to be going on that I didn't expect and sink the company. But I haven't had a single thing, man, outside of a few of them braces. So it's well worth me being able to add that. How like a Craftsman socket, it's a lifetime warranty. You find one in your uncle's drawer that's cracked, send it to him. They'll give you a new one. I want to be that. I'm nowhere near big as Craftsman, but I can damn sure honor the same warranty as them at the capacity I'm at.
Good for you, man. Like I said, I met you at the International Lineman's Rodeo. What was some of that feedback you got from customers, and what was that interaction like?
Oh man, we had thousands of people come by, and I split a booth with Andrew with Line Roots up there. He invited me. I would have been too scared to go alone. I'm not going to lie. If somebody would have told me that there was a booth available at the Lineman Rodeo, I'd be like, no, hell no, man. I'm not ready. I would have never felt ready. Andrew put me on the spot, and we split a booth, and I was thankful, man. Once I got there and we got everything set up, I met guys from all over the world. Sure, I really want to hang out with guys from Australia is what I've learned. I could listen to them talk all day, but it was great interaction, man. I made some really big connections there. There's some people that I would have never known existed and they wouldn't have known me. Something else that was cool was there's also guys that I've talked to on the phone and email, some of my distributors, some of my Canadian distributors, that I didn't realize that I was talking to them until I read their name tag, and they didn't know they was talking to me. You know, we've been talking for years on the damn internet and on the phone, but it was really cool to finally shake the hands of guys that hell I deal with every week, you know, on orders and stuff like that and demos. And it's a small world, even though there was thousands of people there, but absolutely. I'll go back every year. That's something that I was nervous about to begin with. I'm not going to miss one now. You get to meet guys, and there was a lot of guys that come by that I wanted to talk to, but you know, if you already got a conversation started with somebody, and an in-depth conversation, you don't want to cut them off or make them feel rushed or anything. So there was a lot of guys that come through that either I recognized or I could tell they was kind of wanting to wait to talk to me or ask me about a tool that I didn't get to talk to them. So this next year, I'm going to have another guy in the booth with me that knows a lot about my products. And, you know, there'll be two of us there to talk about just my tools. Of course, Andrew and his wife runs his company. They were dealing with their own stuff on the other half of the booth. So if somebody come through there that's watching this that felt shortchanged, I'm going to do better next year for sure on my time management and talking.
Yeah, no, we've even we have our Boother podcast, excuse me, and we learn that every year. It's always tough to, you know, answer the questions, and we do live recording podcasts, and we learn a little bit every year. So I think that's cool. And you came by the booth and you gave me your brochure, and then I was doing a crew visit the following month, and I had a lineman say, "Hey man, like you got to check out this Big Grip," and I was like, "What? Tell me about it." And she showed it to me. I was like, "Funny you say that. I just met Jared at the International Lineman's Rodeo, and it was such a and this is your newest product, right? Big Grip."
The Big Grip is the last thing that I released. It's been about a month. We sold out immediately. I wasn't ready. You know, a few hundred of them in a few days there, and of course we make those in house. Those are, you know, we don't outsource that crap, and that's a really cool tool, man. I had I think me and you talked about it a little bit before this podcast. Where the Big Grip originated is I was on a storm. There was a hurricane up in Delaware that come through. It's been a few months ago, but anyway, I was on the ground and apprentice needed to send a drill bit up the pole to the lineman, and it was nighttime and raining. And of course, you're automatically in a hurry. You know, we're just fixing some tri-plex. We had to climb it. Anyway, he spread his handline rope and shoved that drill bit in there and went to sending it up. And the damn thing's will unthread on you, especially on them new Milwaukee bits. I got big flights, you know, and that drill bit come down and knocked a hole in my new lift hard hat, $160 hard hat runt. And I couldn't be mad at him. Like, you know, it was just one of them accidents. I shouldn't have been that close to the pole, but I was also using my headlamp to shine for the guy that was up the pole. So anyway, it's my own fault for being under there, but I can't be mad at the apprentice because that's how we've all sent a drill bit up a hand line like that. But once you get a hand line, or once you get your drill bit up the pole and you pop your holes, but you're not done with the drill bit, you got to find something to do with it. You know, you trying to hold it under your arm or stick it in your belt, or maybe lay it somewhere that you hope it will still be when you need it in a minute. Don't shake the pole.
Oh, dude.
Or you throw it back down. Then your new drill bit has just landed on concrete, you know, whatever. But anyway, the Big Grip, I was like, I'm gonna. It's one of them things I told you. I only fix problems with the tools I release, and that was one of them. I'm like, I'm gonna make it. Of course, they make those for little 1/4-inch bits, you know, like little, you know, Phillips screwdriver bits and stuff. They make a little keychains for that, and I'm like, well, there's no reason that we don't make it. So I have fixed that. You can now keep your drill bit in your socket hooked to anything, and that's not gonna fail. It's made out of solid steel. Got you can pick a Z71 pickup truck up with that carabiner. You're good.
Wow, dude. Yeah. And it's so smart. And you talk about either weaving it through the hand line or you're tying some half hitch around it, and it just kind of catches something. And next thing you know, you got a drill bit with a very sharp pointy end coming at you as you're moving the hand line, or even just storing in an apron. You know, typically it's going to be point side up, just to kind of not allow that point to dig into the apron. But now you can kind of hang it so it's down, the point's down. And dude, such a cool thing. I saw him when I went to that crew visit, I saw the lineman using it. He was just happy about it. So, yeah, it made me be like, let me get back to Jared and get him on this show. So I think it was great.
It's good. It's cool to hear that. Some tool aprons don't come with drill bit holders now. I learned that a few weeks ago. I don't know why they would ever do away with that option, but there are some new tool aprons that here you are. You're back to trying to prop your drill bit up or leave it over by the controls, something. So anyway.
Or your the PVC holster is pretty popular too, where you drill out a little pointy end tip, so you're not dulling it, or it's not jabbing you too. So, and here you go. You got a nice, cool carabiner. Check it out on the website. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Shoot, man. I think that's about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good. I've made so many notes here to go over, buddy, but we've covered a lot. We've been on here for a little while. I know I'm thankful to be here. It feels surreal. I feel very humbled for the opportunity to be on here with you. I remember when I met you, I remember handing you that catalog. I was like, man, I'm going to walk over and meet this guy. You were setting up or taking down your booth, one or the other. And I'm like, I'm not going to take up any of his time and make it short and sweet. And this wraps back around to the people you meet in life at any stage. You never know how it's going to affect you down the road. And this is one of those testimonies. I shook your hand a few months ago in October for the first time, and here we are, and I appreciate that.
Man, I appreciate you for having the courage just to build your products, to sacrificing it and make an investment. Essentially, you're taking away from your family, investing your time and money in something like this, and to creating products that are gonna, A, the user's going to be happy about and proud of, and B, it's going to make the job safer and efficient. So I think, hats off to you, and I'm equally as humble to have you on and share, your message and bring value into your career, and share the lessons learned that you've learned in your career to the audience, man. So I think it's unique. Rooting for you, man. I think you got some great products. Where can people find those products at? Where can they reach out to you? Man,
you can request a catalog if you want to. You can get on my website and email me. It's at journeymangearhq.com. You can find me on Instagram at Journeyman Gear, and I don't do a whole lot on Facebook. I just never have. But man, shoot me a message. I'll send you a catalog. Of course, you can order all of our stuff offline, and I have about 25 distributors. Most of the distributors that you're going to find in this country, the J.L. Matthews and J. Harlan's and Tallman's, and up in Canada we got Line Star and. Anyway, 25, 30 distributors, I guess, that you can find my tools. But I'll be happy to send demos out. I really like finding guys that are on tool teams. If you're on a tool team at a company, I send demos out every week to these guys. And I understand. I was on the standards team for the utility company I worked for. That's the only way to get a tool approved is for a 1 or 2 month pilot program for the guys in-house to test it. They vote on it at a round table, and it's yay or nay. If you're on one of them roundtable meetings and you would like to test the tool, consider it done. I'll ship it to you free.
There you go. Jared, I appreciate you, man. Best of luck to you. And we'll do this again. We'll get you in studio. Hopefully you can talk about more about some the tools releasing. We'll have a conversation solely on cotter keys, maybe.
Yeah, man. Cotter keys are a problem. You're struggling with cotter keys, whether you know it or not.
You've been great, man. Hang on. I'm going to stop recording, but we'll chat afterwards. So don't leave me, Jared. All right. Thank you, guys. It's going to do it for this episode. First episode 2025. Can you believe that? I can't believe I'm saying 2025. Once again, thanks, Jared. Visit the website, journeymangearhq.com. Give him a good testimony. Give him a good feedback.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you guys. See you next time. Yep.